words are awesome. It seems like when we discuss word origins and etymology that a lot of people lose interest, especially when you start to go from this word came from a Middle English word that meant something sort of similar, which may have come from Latin, or may have come from Middle French, or may have come from Arabic languages. That tends to get really boring for people really quickly. But the etymologies that I find interesting are the ones that don't really exist, because the words were just invented. Take, for example, Robert Heinlein's grok. It comes from Stranger in a Strange Land, and it has a very specific meaning that is needed in our world that can't be summed up in one word by any existing word. And words like grok are ones that I like because there's not anything that you could point to in a thesaurus type entry, because you have to define the word, and once you define the word, you can use it and not have to spend a sentence telling somebody what this thing you're trying to express is. Certainly there are a lot of other words that have been invented by science fiction writers, but there's not any that have entered, popular language like grok. And it's kind of fallen out of use, but it's still definitely strongly in use by geeky people. It appears in Linux manuals and things of that nature, and it's still vital, and it still means something very specific. And we understand grok, and we agree upon its meaning because the author told us that this is specifically what it means. But there are a lot of other ways that we arrive upon a meaning for a word. The very first job I held was working in a preschool. And I was told a story of when the children that were under my care were younger, a couple years younger, and they were toddlers. One of the children, let's call him Tyler, started to shout chicken nuggets whenever he was frustrated or upset with another child, or just angry and couldn't express himself in another way. It wasn't just Tyler though, it spread to the other children in the room, and eventually they were all starting to say chicken nuggets and shout chicken nuggets whenever they were frustrated. The caregivers recognized that this was not an appropriate use of language for 2-year-olds, and so they, put a stop to it. But what's interesting to me is that chicken nuggets mean something very specific to most English speakers, but to this very small group of people, it came to mean something else. What's remarkable, though, is that this is not a phenomenon that is limited to small groups of people, and it's not limited to small children who are still learning the rules of language. Like, for instance, with a lot of my friends, I don't say daydreaming anymore, I say making up memories. And that's something that we stole from a Ryan Adams song, but I often have to remind myself where it came from because the reference is lost in our usage. Getting back to the necessity of new words, though, I was recently sent a link to the Oxford English Dictionary, which is a site that's dedicated to inventing new words. The format basically is that you send in words that don't exist, and the author of the blog defines them for you. As you can imagine, this has resulted in a lot of words that don't really need to exist and have very, very specific and limiting meanings. But there's some that are amazing and should exist, like wythe, Y-T-H, meaning the level of questioning applied by a child who keeps asking why, as in being given the wife degree. And that's an amazing word, and that deserves to exist in our lexicon. Another great word that's a little bit limited is Cog Whopper, which is a person who eats with his or her mouth open when they're eating a hamburger. Now, I don't have a lot of use for that word as it stands, but my hope is that with the adaptability of language, Cog Offer can come to mean any person who chews with his or her mouth open, regardless of what he or she is eating. Because that's a word that we need to have, because that happens a lot, and I want to refer to those people, and it would be so much simpler if I could just say, yeah, John, he's a Cog Offer. Don't go to dinner with him. In conclusion, new words are awesome. The way that words come about is awesome. If you don't think so, you're not looking in the right places. The things that I really want to share this time are the Oxford English Dictionary, Stranger in a Strange Land, and chicken nuggets, I guess. All of those things are awesome, and the way that we arrive at new words is awesome, and you're awesome, and I will see you later.